Gemini is the sign of the restless mind, of air and movement, of freedom and sacred duality. People remember this sign for its sharp intelligence, endless curiosity, and almost magical capacity to adapt to any environment. Yet behind the jokes, the spontaneity, and the quick laughter, there is a secret side of Gemini. Wild, unpredictable, impossible to tame. No one owns a Gemini. They transform, shift direction, and walk away without warning, not because they are cruel or careless, but because their mind never stops moving. Gemini notices everything. They read intentions hidden between the lines, they decode behavior, catch inconsistencies, and connect details that most people never even register. They might appear distracted, scattered, or lost in thought, but in truth, they are always a few steps ahead, watching, analyzing, sensing. The moment they feel pressure, control, or expectations that suffocate their nature, they do not enter into direct confrontation. They smile, make a light comment, change the subject, and then quietly change direction. Gemini doesn't break chains, they simply slide out of them. And once they go, they very rarely look back. Their freedom is not a preference, it is their essence, their shield, their spiritual fuel. If you have ever tried to truly understand a Gemini, you have probably felt that there is something about them that escapes any attempt at control. On the surface, they seem easygoing, fun, social. But if you look more closely, if you sit in their presence for a few minutes without distraction, you will sense a depth that not everyone can reach. It is like staring at a river that looks shallow, only to realize that beneath the sparkling surface, there are strong, invisible currents shaping everything in silence. There are 5 powerful reasons why no one can control a Gemini, and the 5th one has the potential to completely change the way you see this sign. That title is not exaggeration or drama. We're talking about one of the fastest minds in the zodiac, one of the most adaptable energies, and at the same time, one of the most misunderstood souls of all. Gemini is not just a sign, it is a movement, a constant state of transformation, a living wind that refuses to be condensed, pressured, or molded into something smaller than its true nature. Trying to control a Gemini is like trying to grasp the breeze with your hands. The harder you cling, the faster it slips through your fingers.
This is not rebellion for rebellion's sake, it is cosmic programming. Geminis are born to explore, to question, to open doors no one else dares to touch. That is what makes them both fascinating and impossible to tame. The more you think you've figured them out, the more they surprise you. They change, not because they are fickle, but because they are constantly adapting to new realities, new emotions, new truths. They think fast, feel fast, and live fast, and this intensity does not fit inside any neat, predictable box. While you are still analyzing their last reaction, Gemini is already 3 moves ahead, tuning into possibilities you haven't even imagined yet. And as you listen to this, if you recognize yourself in these words, or recognize someone you love, take a deep breath and allow this message to sink in. And if you feel called to keep diving into this kind of cosmic insight, take a moment and subscribe to Astro Gemini right now. This helps you stay close to content that speaks your language, and it helps the space continue to grow as a sanctuary for curious, sensitive, and awakened minds. In this journey, you're not just going to hear why no one can control a Gemini, you're going to see what lies behind their bright eyes, quick words, and unexpectedly tender heart. Many say they know Geminis, but only those who truly pay attention see the truth behind the easy smile and the constant flow of ideas. And when we reach the 5th reason, you may finally understand something about this sign that no one has ever explained to you so clearly. Gemini's first secret is the one that most people ignore, the mind that never, ever stops. While many think in a straight, linear way, Gemini thinks in spirals, constellations, and fractals. Their mind jumps from the past to the future, from logic to intuition, from memory to possibility, weaving everything together at a breathtaking speed. It is as if they are always online internally, with multiple tabs open and all of them loading at once. This mental velocity makes any attempt to control them visible from miles away. Before someone even finishes imposing a rule, setting a limit, or trying to box them into a role, Gemini has already decoded the intention. They don't just listen to what is being said, they notice how it is said, why it is said, and what emotional effect it is trying to create. Most people only react when they feel controlled. Gemini senses control long before it fully lands in the room. They see the net before it falls. Because they perceive so much, they never stay in the same mental place for long. Their thoughts are constantly jumping to a higher perspective, seeking alternatives, escape routes, and new paths that no one else imagines. Trying to control a Gemini is like trying to hold water in your palm. The more rigid your hand, the faster it flows away. It's not that they enjoy running from people. It's that their mind simply doesn't know how to be small, quiet, and contained inside someone else's expectations. Gemini also needs constant mental stimulation. When someone tries to trap them inside monotony, demand predictability from their soul, or limit their expression, they immediately feel their vitality draining out of them. The loss of mental movement for a Gemini is the emotional equivalent of a prison cell, and no one locks up an air sign, especially one that was born to explore every direction of the sky. The Gemini mind works as both a compass and a shield. Because they think so quickly, they can scan emotional landscapes with remarkable precision. They identify manipulation in a tone of voice, detect toxic patterns in a single repeated behavior, and notice when someone subtly tries to direct their steps. When they realize that their mental autonomy is under threat, their reaction is instinctive, distance, silence, an apparently sudden shift. They don't always announce their departure, but they feel it long before it happens. This is why Gemini is not uncontrollable simply because they are rebellious. They are uncontrollable because their mind is designed to be free. They need space to think, to create, to change their opinions, to reinvent themselves again and again. Their intelligence needs to feel recognized and respected, not minimized and restricted. The more someone tries to shrink their world, the more their mind expands beyond that person's reach. Their own thoughts become wings that carry them away from any attempt at control.
And then we arrive at the second great reason why no one can control a Gemini: their insatiable need for freedom. If there is something that defines this sign even more than intellect, it is their visceral, almost primal relationship with liberty. Freedom is not a slogan, not a cute personality trait, not an aesthetic concept. It is oxygen. It is the air that circulates through their lungs and through their ideas. They do not just like freedom, they become sick without it. Gemini is an air sign, and air cannot be imprisoned. The more you try to enclose it, the more violently it seeks a way out. Many people misinterpret this. They confuse Gemini's love of space and movement with detachment, irresponsibility, or emotional superficiality. But that is not what is happening. Freedom for Gemini is the very fuel of their mind. Without it, their creativity becomes dim, their curiosity shrinks, and their inner light slowly fades. They don't resist rules or structures to be dramatic. They resist anything that threatens to suffocate who they truly are. A Gemini must choose. They need to choose love, choose to stay, choose to give themselves. If they feel pushed, cornered, or forced, whether emotionally, mentally, or physically, their instinct is to retreat. When someone tries to dictate their schedule, choose their friendships, monitor their conversations, or police their feelings, Gemini starts to withdraw in a quiet, almost invisible way. They don't always yell or demand with intensity. Instead, they begin to fade from that space, internally first, and then externally. Gemini's rebellion is not loud, it is subtle. They will still be polite, still show up, still share a laugh, but the soul connection is no longer there. They walk away to recover the air that was being taken from them. They walk away to remember who they are when no one is trying to define them. And the more someone clings, the more they loosen their own grip and detach, because for them, freedom is not negotiable. Another thing people don't understand is how deeply Gemini feeds on movement.
They need new books, new ideas, new conversations, new experiences. They need different perspectives to feel alive. When someone tries to reduce their world to a tiny room of repeated patterns, they feel suffocated. A rigid routine weighs on their chest. Emotional control feels like a hand around their throat. The absence of novelty is not just boring for them, it is draining.
That is why possessive relationships, suffocating jealousy, and control-heavy dynamics simply do not work with this sign. The more someone tries to own them, the more their heart disconnects, not because they lack feeling, but because their essence cannot breathe inside invisible chains. They need space to be many things at once, to change their mind without being labeled inconsistent, to reinvent themselves whenever their soul calls for it. And here lies one of the most beautiful paradoxes. Gemini can love deeply. When they feel respected and free, they can be incredibly loyal, present, and committed. Their loyalty grows in environments of trust, lightness, and mutual respect. They bloom in relationships where they are not monitored, but chosen, not captured, but invited. Those who understand this gain a partner who is bright, funny, attentive, and genuinely interested in growth. Those who try to control them slowly lose their access to this magic. When someone tries to force them, pressure them, or emotionally corner them, Gemini reacts with a movement that is subtle yet final. Something flips inside them. They quietly choose a new direction. The change is fast but elegant. No big speeches, no grand confrontations. One day they were emotionally there. The next, their heart is already elsewhere. They can still be kind. They can still respond. They can still maintain a polite connection. But internally, the bond has been released. Gemini doesn't return to what they have truly outgrown. They might revisit memories, reread conversations, or remain cordial, but emotionally, they are already inhabiting a different inner landscape. This terrifies those who attempted to control them, because while others argue, cling, and create scenes to hold on to what is slipping away, Gemini simply takes a quiet step toward the exit. You don't see the storm, you simply notice the absence. For Gemini, changing direction is not failure, it is freedom. It is like opening the window in a room that has become heavy with old air. Each shift is a rebirth. They allow themselves to unlearn, to detach, to start from zero if necessary. They begin again with the courage of someone who understands that life is not meant to be lived in repetition, but in cycles of evolution. This ability to pivot is also a self-defense mechanism. When they begin to notice signs of control, emotional toxicity, suffocating monotony, or any type of energetic oppression, they do not usually launch into endless discussions. They simply adjust internally and step off that route. Change becomes their way of preserving their identity, protecting their spirit from being diluted in situations that no longer match who they are becoming. And this change is not only external, it is internal too. Geminis change their opinions when they learn something new. They alter their dreams when their soul calls for different experiences. They shift their interests when a subject no longer nourishes their curiosity. This natural emotional and mental flexibility makes it impossible to confine them inside fixed expectations. How can you control someone whose identity is built on constant reinvention? The world often demands linear consistency. Gemini gifts the world with continuous evolution. And this very fluidity is what makes them immune to attempts at control. They possess a courage that many people fear. The courage to leave the table when respect is gone, to walk away before a situation destroys their essence, to embrace endings as portals to new beginnings.
Now we reach the fourth reason why no one can control a Gemini: their sharp emotional radar. Society tends to pigeonhole Gemini as the sign of intellect, language, humor, and logic. People imagine them as thinkers, talkers, and social butterflies.
And they are. But there is a side of their energy that is often overlooked: their subtle, extremely calibrated emotional perception. Beneath the quick jokes and rapid thoughts, Gemini carries a radar that constantly scans the emotional atmosphere. They can walk into a room and immediately sense what no one is saying out loud. They feel tension in the way someone avoids eye contact. They notice when a smile doesn't reach the eyes. They hear the truth in the pauses between words. Where others get lost in the surface, Gemini is already reading the undercurrent. Their intuition is not always dramatic, it is precise. It is like a quiet inner voice that says, "Something here is off," or "This person is not showing their real face," long before facts confirm it. This sensitivity is one of their greatest protections. When someone tries to manipulate them through guilt, emotional blackmail, passive-aggressive comments, or subtle pressure, Gemini picks up on it quickly. Even if they don't respond immediately, they register everything. They wait. They observe. They connect patterns across different moments. And when they finally understand what is actually happening, they begin to detach inside. You cannot imprison someone who is already left emotionally. By the time that person who tried to control them realizes they no longer have the same power, Gemini's heart is already flying toward a safer space. Another thing that confuses people is how selectively Gemini chooses where to invest emotionally. They do feel deeply, but they do not give that depth to just anyone. They don't waste emotional energy in places where it is not valued or reciprocated. Their mind analyzes, but their intuition confirms. Together, these two inner forces form a compass that naturally guide them away from people who drain them, deceive them, or dim their light. Gemini often prefers silence over unnecessary confrontation. Instead of getting trapped in endless cycles of explanation and argument, they choose distance. They choose freedom. They choose peace. By the time someone realizes that something has changed, the change is already complete. Gemini has moved on internally and is only waiting for the external reality to catch up.
If you have ever watched a Gemini slowly fade from a situation, you have felt this. One day they are deeply present, the next their energy feels further away. That is not indifference, it is self-preservation. It is their radar saying, this is no longer safe for your heart. And if this is resonating with your experience, if you are a Gemini listening right now, or if you love one, share it with the universe. In the comments, write your date of birth and your zodiac sign, and if you are Gemini or have strong Gemini placements, let this be a small ritual of self-recognition. Your story may be the mirror another soul needs. We are now in the middle of this journey together, and if the words you're hearing are bringing clarity, healing, or just that deep feeling of, finally, someone understands, honor that connection. Gently like this video so more people can find Astro Gemini and feel seen through the wisdom of the stars. Your support is part of the energy that keeps this message flowing to the right hearts at the right time. From here, we move toward the final reveal, the trait that surprises almost everyone and becomes the last unbreakable reason why no one can truly control a Gemini. It is not their humor, not their intelligence, not their quick words. It is something quieter, more subtle, and far more powerful than most people expect. Among all the qualities that make Gemini impossible to control, one stands out, often misunderstood and rarely recognized in its true strength: their natural detachment. This is the fifth and perhaps most surprising reason. When people hear the word detachment, they imagine coldness, indifference, or an inability to love. But Gemini's detachment is not a lack of feeling. It is a wise form of self-love. Gemini has the rare ability to step back the moment they understand that something no longer aligns with their heart, no longer supports their growth, or no longer respects their freedom. Their affection, enthusiasm, and intense communication sometimes make others believe they will stay forever. They build deep connections quickly. They talk for hours. They make you feel seen, heard, and alive. Their presence is so complete that it's easy to believe they will never leave.
But Gemini does not cling to what wounds them. They cling to what inspires them. When a situation loses its spark, when a relationship turns into a constant draining effort, when a space demands their submission instead of welcoming their truth, they feel a shift that is impossible to ignore. Their detachment can appear sudden, but in reality, it is the final chapter of an internal process that has been unfolding quietly for a long time. One of the most striking aspects of Gemini's detachment is that they live intensely in the present. When they are with you, they are really with you. Their mind may be expansive, but their attention can be fully anchored in the moment. Yet, if the energy changes, if the connection stops being reciprocal, if the respect disappears, Gemini does not hold on to a past version of what you were. They accept the reality of what is, and what they accept, they act on. They don't slam doors with dramatic gestures. Often the end arrives in the form of silence. Fewer messages, fewer explanations, fewer attempts to fix what no longer wants to be healed. They don't usually seek revenge. They don't waste time crafting punishments. They simply move on, because deep inside, they have already understood that staying would only reopen the same wound again and again. What appears to be emotional coldness is actually protection. It is their soul saying, "You've done enough. You've tried enough. Now you need to protect your own heart." And in this quiet exit, Gemini reveals their most powerful truth. They refuse to be controlled because they themselves do not control others. They know that love is choice, not obligation. They know that genuine connection cannot be forced, only nurtured. Gemini, surprisingly, does not tend to carry heavy grudges. They might remember the lesson, but they don't cling to hatred. They close cycles with a lightness that many find confusing. How can someone so affectionate, so communicative, so present just stop? The answer is simple: freedom. They cannot coexist for long with invisible prisons. Whenever they feel manipulation, suffocating expectations, or emotional cages, their inner wings begin to open. This flight is not cowardice. It is honesty. It is the recognition that they need to be where they can breathe, think, and feel without being punished for who they are. Their detachment is proof that they understand their own value. They do not bargain with their peace. They do not insist on what has already died. They do not chase spaces that no longer choose them. In the end, anyone who tries to control a Gemini is faced with a painful truth. They stay only where their soul wants to stay. Promises cannot hold them. Guilt cannot bind them. Memories cannot recage them once their spirit has flown. Their detachment is not the absence of love. It is the courage to love themselves enough to keep moving forward. Gemini is movement, intelligence, and freedom, but they are also silence, distance, and departure when necessary. They are not uncontrollable because they like chaos. They are uncontrollable because their essence belongs to the winds of possibility, not to the chains of fear. Their heart belongs to the world of ideas, stories, and experiences, not to anyone's cage. If you are Gemini, you might recognize yourself in these words: the mind that doesn't stop, the soul that seeks space, the heart that loves deeply but refuses to be owned. And if you love a Gemini, perhaps now you can see that what you once read as instability may actually be self-preservation, evolution, and loyalty to their own spirit. Now bring this journey back to you. Have you ever tried to control the Gemini? Or have you ever been that Gemini, impossible to tame, always one step away from the next chapter? Share in the comments your date of birth and your zodiac sign. And if you're a Gemini or have strong Gemini energy in your chart, tell the universe, "I honor my freedom." Your words might be exactly what another heart needs to read tonight.
As we close this message, let this be a small ritual between you, the stars, and this moment. If this content touched you, subscribe to Astro Gemini so you can continue to receive guidance, reflection, and clarity every time the universe has something new to whisper through the zodiac. And don't forget to like this video, not just as a virtual click, but as a way of saying, I choose my truth, I honor my path, I respect my freedom. The universe never stops speaking, the signs never stop sending messages, and your chart never stops unfolding new chapters of your story. If you want to hear everything the universe has to say to you, watch these other videos on our channel.